I noticed that quite often people are still making mistakes when importing data into HubSpot. So in this video, I want to clear that up and give you some tips which will teach you how you can prevent duplicates while you're importing things, and also how you can make sure that everything gets linked together properly. My name is Jasper. I'm a certified HubSpot consultant, and let's dive right in. First, I'll show you the file that I have prepared here. So when we go to context to import, this is the little file I prepared, and this is typically also the structure that you want for any file that you import. So you want the first row to have the headers so that you know what all of these columns mean, and then you want your clean data in those columns. Now, once we have this information, when you go to HubSpot, you can just go to your contact view here, and in the top right, you will see the option to import data. Here you can see there are a couple of options, and one of them that we will use today is import a file. The other ones is if you want to directly sync data from other apps, for example, a shout out to Contrast here, a webinar app, who will have this sync through their application and will sync all of the relevant data between their app and HubSpot in real time, which is awesome. Then we also have two beta features here. We'll not go into that too much because I still need to learn a little bit more about these two as well. But one of them is transfer your data. So for example, if you're coming from Pipedrive, you can easily import your data into HubSpot. Another one here is transform your data. And that's when we want to do some basically like data wrangling when we are importing that data. So we can like do some alterations on that data before we actually enter it into the system. At least that's what I got from the demo that I got from the HubSpot team. If you like this video so far, give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more HubSpot excellence because it really does help out the channel, and we'll continue with the video. Anyway, so we'll go to import data right here, and here we'll go to start import. Now this first screen is already very important. Here we can choose the objects that we are importing data for. So as it says here, what kind of data is in your file? In our case, as we go back to our file here, you can see that we're importing contact data, including the phone number here. We're also importing company data because we have the companies that are linked to these contacts. And then we're importing some notes as well. So we'll go for contacts, companies, and notes. Notice here that we also select the associations here. So for example, if you would be importing deals in this case, and let me unselect these for a second, and we select deals, that's perfectly fine for your import, right? Wrong. We actually want to have our associations with it as well. So when we're importing deals, obviously we're talking to people to get these deals across the finish line. So we want the contacts that are linked to those deals, and you want to make sure that those are in the file as well with their unique identifier, something we will talk about in a second, which is incredibly important. Same for companies. Deals are usually linked to a company, depending on your type of business. If you're in a B2B business, more often than not, they will be linked to companies. B2C, it could be that your deals are just linked to contacts. And then if there's like notes or meetings or emails, we can select these here as well. So for our imports, as said, we have contacts, companies, and notes, and we'll click next. In this screen, we can select what we want to do with these contacts. So for each of the objects that we selected, we can choose to either create and update, or just create new ones, or just update existing ones. So depending on the data you're importing, like sometimes you just want the new contacts that are in that file. You want to ignore everything else, you will do just create new contacts only. And then for notes, we'll just do create new notes only, and our headers are in English, and this is what HubSpot will use to try to match the headers in your file to the relevant properties within HubSpot. So now we're ready to import that file, and we'll just drag it in here, and we'll click next. So we can see that HubSpot is already doing some mapping for us here, but I still want to go over these things. Also, unfortunately, I had to re-record this video because we had an audio issue. So like when I did this the first time, not all of them were mapped, but we'll still walk through the entire process. The first thing here is first name, and this is from our column header, so we can easily see what data we're working with. Then in the second column here, we can see preview information where we can see the first 3 rows. So this allows us to verify that this is indeed the first name. Then this is already mapped, as you can see here. Sometimes when it's not mapped, it would show something like this, or yeah, I can't really show but like it would show us that it's not mapped already. So now we'll click on contact properties because that's where we want to map it to. And then we'll choose the property that we want to map it to. So in this case, that would be the first name. And now this is mapped. And then here in this last column, we can choose to manage the existing values. And here we do have the option to not override any existing values. So when we select these and these values already exist in the system, they will not be overridden. Now we'll do the next thing for last name here. Double check the values. Indeed, this is the last name. This belongs to contact properties. We'll go for the last name property that we want to sync this to. And again, not override. And now we get to the first important one. So here we get to email. As you can see, there's one error right now, and here we can see what this is about. So we can do view errored values, and there seems to be a dot missing right here. Like there cannot be a space in an email address, of course. So here HubSpot allows us to actually quickly fix this without even leaving our import flow here. So I'll just put a dot there, and now we can see everything looks okay, and we have our green check mark here. So this is a contact property as well, and this is the email. Now, when we look up email here, you will see that email is actually our unique ID property. This means that HubSpot will only allow like a single record with that email address. If there's an additional record with the same email address, they will actually be merged together. So like the information that we're importing would be compared to that record with that email address. And depending on what we select here, it will like override values or add values if the information is not there just yet. So having an email address for any contact imports that you do is incredibly important to prevent any duplicates. Next, we'll look at phone number. This again is a contact property, and the property is phone number. So this all looks good. Then for the company name, we can see that these are indeed company names. Then we import those as a company property, and we'll select the company name here. We'll not override this. And then we get to the second important one. So we have company website, which is again a company property. And here you can see we are syncing this to company domain name. Now, the domain name is the unique ID for companies. So anytime you're doing anything with companies, you really want to make sure that you have the domain name in your import file. Again, very important to prevent any duplicates. And besides duplicates, this is also an important step to make sure that your contacts get properly linked to each other. So let's say we have an import with deals, and we know that the contacts and companies that these deals are linked to already exist in our system. So we don't have to import the first name, the last name, the company name, but we do want to make sure that we add that email and the domain name, because that is what will allow us to associate the deals with the company records and the contact records. So really remember, email important for contacts and company domain name important for any company records. And then last but not least, we have our node here. This is something we import as a node property, and then we'll select the node body. As you can see here, we do have the option to add the activity date and the activity assigned to. Both of these options, we don't really have columns for these in the import that we're doing right now. But if we had them, we could add the exact date that that node needs to be added in the system. Right now, when we do not do that, it will just create that node on today's date, so the date and time of the import itself. Once we're all set here, we'll click on next, and we can give our import a name. This name is also very important because it will allow us to find any records linked to this import later on. So if something would go wrong with this import, or we want like a certain list of this import, this is linked to the contact forever. So we'll always be able to find if a record was part of a certain import. So let's say that these are all contacts that I spoke with at inbounds. So this way it's clear. I might even add inbound 25. This way it's clear what this import is. Then we can also choose to create a contact segment from this import as well. And we also have to select that we agree that all of these contacts are expecting to hear from us. And specifically, and this is also an important one, that this list wasn't purchased, rented, appended, or provided by a third party. This is specifically important because like any lists that you would get from third parties, you usually don't expect to hear from your business, and you would get a lot of spam complaints from those lists anyway. There's not really a lot of business value in those, right? Then we also have the option to enrich these records, and that's a specific HubSpot feature where they will match this data with the database that they have. And let's see if we have some more information for you here. Well, you can have a look at these, but it uses its Breeze intelligence to enrich the contacts and companies that we are importing. So I would usually check those, and HubSpot will see if they have any information on these records, and they will fill out that information for you. Then we just click finish import, and that's it. That's the import, and everything is done at that point. In this case, we will see that not a lot of new records would be created. I think only for the nodes that we have, because as I said, I already had to do this video once before, unfortunately. But then we can see the import is completed with no errors. And as we can see here, import is done. And we can look at the contacts that are part of this import. So they're all here. Now, if you did some imports in the past that unfortunately did go wrong, you want to watch this video right here about the Qualify app. This is an amazing tool that will help you to automatically deduplicate any of that data, and it makes the entire process just a breeze. Hope you liked this video, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.